Hi, I'm Nikki and welcome to Tree of Life Ministries. Today we're going to be chatting to Pauli and really hear about how God has worked in her life with healing, with coming also under spiritual attack, and how God set her free from that. So Pauli, welcome, and I'm so looking forward to hearing your story. So you've experienced God in many ways in your life.
Yeah.
Throughout your life, but won't you tell me a little bit about your background or your journey as a Christian?
I grew up in a Christian home to loving parents. They have been married over 60 years. In the mornings, they pray for all of our 6 siblings and all the grandkids and great-grandkids. So I've grown up with a very loving, God-loving and God-fearing family. When I was very little, I gave my heart to the Lord with my dad kneeling next to my bed with me, praying the salvation prayer with me, and yeah, I've always loved the Lord and I've always known Him. In high school, I was at a camp where I recommitted my life to God. So God has always been a very integral part of my just belief system.
Okay, and then at 16, you were hit very hard by something. Will you?
So I had a manic episode. An overpowering almost sense of just almost rejection. I can almost just say my life came to a standstill. My parents took me to a doctor after the manic episode, a psychiatrist, who diagnosed me after 15 minutes looking at me, saying that I had bipolar. I was admitted to a mental hospital for 2 weeks. And afterwards, I was put on chronic medication. And I was a very, very bubbly person before. I had high grades. And afterwards, I literally went into my just shell because I lost a lot of friends and people didn't understand. I didn't understand what was going on because 16, as a normal child or teenager, it's a hard time in your life. You're trying to figure out who you are, what you want to do, your friends and everything. And I started to almost form my own identity, a new identity of who I thought I was, which was not God's image of me.
In 2002, you went to London. You'd finished studying and you went to London to work as a graphic designer.
Yes.
And you still had this very low sense of self, and
yes,
you had put on quite a lot of weight because of the medication. But something amazing happened when you were in London.
Yeah. So I actually went to study graphic design because I love arts and I'm an arty person, and I had this checklist of my life and what I wanted to do with my life, and I thought, no, I'm going to go to London, I'm going to work as a graphic designer, and I went over and I got no work. None whatsoever, and I was completely broke after 3 months. I remember phoning my mom and asking for her to just lend me money. I was literally picking up pennies from the street to buy a 9p, which is 9 pence can of baked beans at Asda, because I had no food. Literally just scraping by. And at that time, I was reading a Francine Rivers book who a friend at a cell group lent me. And it was called Leota's Garden. And it's about just a teenage girl visiting her grandma and their relationship, etc. And I remember before I went to London, lots of people said they are going to go and do caring, or they're going to work in museums or do things like that. And I was like, I want to be a graphic designer. I'm not going to do anything else. I am not going to take care of other people because I'm not a people's person. I cannot do that. And I was reading this book, and throughout the whole book, God just spoke into my heart. And at the end of the book, I was literally sobbing my eyes out because it was about this girl who was just getting to know her grandmother and this relationship and everything about the relationship and unconditional love and caring for her grandmother, because she's ill in the book. And at the end of the book, when I closed it, I was sobbing my eyes out, and I remember just realizing, oh my goodness, God has been closing all these doors because He wants me to go and take care of old people.
Sure.
And it gives me goosebumps as I'm just saying it, because I never thought that I was worthy enough to take care of other people, because I thought I cannot even take care of myself. So I think that's why I blocked out the whole people's thing. And immediately I prayed, and I said, God, I am so incredibly sorry for wanting to do my own thing. Can you please forgive me and open the right doors? And I remember opening up the paper, and there was an ad for a live-in care service, and I phoned them, and immediately they said, come through for an interview. It was in the countryside, and I said, listen, I do not have enough money to travel back. So I can travel to you, but I cannot travel back. And they said, don't worry, we'll pay you back. And I went for the interview that same day. I got a job. God opened doors. I just ended up looking after old people, and it changed my thinking. It changed just, my purpose, because my purpose was self-driven. And then I realized, sure, maybe God wants to use me, in other people's lives as well. Yeah.
And also what's amazing is that God spoke to you through a book.
Yes.
So
yes, that someone else gave me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So He, if we're not opening our Bible or whatever, God will still find a way to speak to us, because He's chasing us. He wants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a pivotal moment in my life, because that opened so many other doors.
You had a very real struggle with your body image and your weight, but God's hand was in that too. And you've actually got a blog called Butterfly Diaries, where you talk about your struggle.
Yeah.
So can you tell us, I think it's very important for women who, so many of us, face that same challenge, how God works in you with that weight loss journey of yours.
Yes. So what happened was, when I was diagnosed with bipolar, I was put on chronic medication, and in 1 year I gained 30 kilos. But for me, it was almost as if I was labeling myself. And with all the extra weight, I had this thing of, I'm not worthy, I'm not pretty, I am so ugly in so many ways. And what happened was, just when I was 26, I actually just almost started to form a more deeper relationship with God, in the sense of that I am His princess, and that He loves me unconditionally, and that I actually need to start loving myself. And I did not lose the weight, but I started to do things and think about things in a manner that I thought, maybe this is how God is seeing me, and maybe this is how God is seeing my body as well. So I actually went, I was at a church at that stage, and I went to people that I trusted, and I said, please, I do think that there are mindsets that I maybe started in my own brain, but also of just things that I thought people were thinking of me, and things that were said to me when I was smaller. And I actually asked, could they pray for me for all these things and mindsets? And they prayed for deliverance, and there was quite a lot of manifestation. And I do think that at that stage I was freed from all the mindsets and backstories and things, and I just started loving myself after that. It was almost as if shackles were just broken. So my body image and my identity in God actually changed at that stage.
Even after this had happened and God has started dealing with your body image and whatever, you were still struggling with bipolar disorder.
Yes.
What happened with that?
When I was diagnosed, I saw the psychiatrist for the 2 weeks when I was in hospital. When they gave me the medication, they put me under the care of a GP, because we lived in the countryside. And I actually started to wonder if I actually had bipolar. So with God working in me and just, almost speaking into my soul, my worthiness and everything, I really started to believe that maybe one day I will get married, and maybe one day I will be able to have children, etc. And I knew with the medication I was on, I would not be able to fall pregnant. And then I actually phoned a psychiatrist on my own without anyone else knowing. And I said, I want to come and see you because if you tell me that I need to stay on this medication for the rest of my life, that I have bipolar, I will gladly accept it. But something in me tells me that it might not be what they said it was. And I went to see him, and I remember in my first consultation with him, he asked me all kinds of questions like, when was the last time you were hospitalized? When was the last time you had an episode? Everything. And I was like, when I was diagnosed. And he would ask a question again, and I'm like, when I was diagnosed. And he then asked, and when was this? And that was 2007, and I was diagnosed in 1995. Wow. And he was like, listen, I do not think that you have bipolar. And I remember he was sitting with my file because he asked all my previous notes and from the doctors that I gave him. And he was sitting going through the file, and he's like, this doesn't look like bipolar at all. While I was in that journey with the doctor weaning me off my meds, I also went on a course. I was part of a ministry, and it was a conference, and I asked people to please pray for me for this journey, and if there are anything there that is not from God, that they please pray for me for healing. And they actually prayed for me for healing there, and we still don't know if I was bipolar or if I was wrongly diagnosed. The psychiatrist said that I was misdiagnosed. But what I do know is that at that stage, I was delivered and healed from any kind of depression or manic anything. And 15 September 2007 was the first day that I didn't take a pill. And this year now it marks 13 years, 15 September. And I've never taken a pill again.
Wonderful. Sure, that's
without
amazing.
Medication.
And then I just want to chat lastly about when we were on the Alpha weekend. Pauli also experienced some healing. Tell us about that.
So I've struggled with lower back pain for a very, very long time. And I do see a chiropractor as well because of my posture, because I'm so tall, and all my body image issues. I do not walk very upright. Yeah. And I remember the morning, it was the healing session where you prayed for healing for lots of people, and you asked, please can everyone with lower back pain come to the front? And I immediately, raised my hand, and I remember you looked at my legs and they were not the same length, and you started praying for me. And I remember getting up as well, and you prayed for me and for everything to just come into alignment. And normally when I touched my back and my lower back, it would be so sore, just a little touch. And I remember pressing as hard as I could on my lower back, and the pain was gone. And I remember crying a lot during the healing as well. And it was not just that, it was almost as if I was freed from so many other things, because as life happens, there are so many other things that you also take on you. And it was not just the back. It felt as if lots of worries and fears and everything just went, also during that time. So in the video, there's lots of crying because there was a big release.
Yeah. But it was a beautiful healing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. We serve a miracle working God, and we can see this by all the things that have happened in Pauli's life. And if you like this video, please share and subscribe on YouTube, on Facebook, and even go to our website, www.treeoflifeministries.co.za.